Rich people of Reddit, what is something us 99%ers desire, but you've learned actually kind of sucks? Having full-time staff at home. You never have any privacy growing up. None of those crazy house parties you see in films without the estate manager, cleaning staff, or chef knocking on you. You can't even jerk off without being offered a tissue. Guy from a formerly rich family here, still comfortable, but not rich anymore. All products come in 4 tiers. Ultra cheap crap which lasts 6 weeks, because it's so low quality. Decent stuff which lasts a few years or decades. Amazing stuff which lasts several generations, and ultra expensive crap which lasts 6 weeks, because it's so high maintenance. One of my dad's buddies is a multimillionaire CEO of a Fortune 500, and my dad is one of his only friends. You know why? Once you are that powerful and rich, everybody is trying to get something from you. He'll be at a party and everybody will either A, be a total suck up and a skisser, or B, try to get something from him / pitch something to him. My dad's a plain spoken conservative Republican and nothing like the guy, but he loves him because they can actually get a beer together without my dad pulling that bullshit. I'd say being wealthy overall has major downsides people don't always anticipate. I would summarize the issues I've faced as being trust, building relationships, and dealing with people's expectations. Trust: do you actually want to be my friend, or are you just hoping I'll pick up the check? This happens a lot, and especially considering many of my friends are fresh out of college and don't have as much, I often do pick up the check, because I'd rather us go out on me than not go out at all. But if I'm not offering to pay, nobody shows up. What's worse than that is when people get used to you doing it and start to expect that you'll cover everything. If I'm offering, it's a gift. If not, it's bullshit to assume I'm paying. I joined a fraternity in college and at certain points covered the expenses of an event, say, by buying all the party supplies or decorations, paying a fee or a bill for the house, covering a new member's expenses or someone's dues 1 month, and I was happy to do it. And then one day during a meeting we were discussing our chapter's debt, and it came up that everyone was hoping I would pay the entire chapter's debt, about $10,000 altogether. I had to have a very frank discussion with the guys that day. My dad's a prominent corporate attorney. People constantly hit him up for favors, jobs, legal advice, money, etc. Constantly. As I started working in the industry, the same thing has started with me more and more. Building relationships, as I mentioned, it can be hard to gauge if a person is interested in you or your bank account. It's also difficult to just get to know someone. Some people write you off because they think that you think you're better than they are. People are usually either really interested in your money or they're really not, sometimes to the point of resentment. People judge themselves through what they think are my eyes. You don't know me just because you find out my bank statements are financial porn. People's assumptions and expectations. I do not live like a reality TV star. I drive a nice car, but it's 3 years old, and I'm not upgrading anytime soon. I live in a nice loft, but it's primarily because it's a block from my office, and all my furniture is from IKEA. Some of my clothes are from Target, some are from Nordstrom's. My favorite restaurant is a hole in the wall in the ghetto. I'm completely liberal. People assume if you're wealthy you're a conservative, a snob, an elitist, a materialist. They sometimes insist that you are, even in the face of contradictory evidence. Friend of mine insists I'm a fascist because instead of giving money to homeless people on the street I donate to a homeless shelter. I've asked people out and taken them to that beloved hole in the wall restaurant. You can visibly observe their disappointment that it wasn't a 5-star place with valets and crystal. And if you do something romantic or over the top, you're expected to outdo yourself the next time. Sorry babe, but sometimes I want to eat SpaghettiOs out of the can while I wear my Walmart sweatpants. The CEO of a company I worked for bought a Ferrari. Whenever he wanted to take it out for a drive, usually to impress family members, the battery was dead. He took it to the shop and they asked him how often he drove it. He said once every couple of weeks. They told him that he would need to drive it more often to keep the battery charged. He was not happy. Friends of my family are super filthy rich. They're nice people, even though they are a bit odd. The thing is, they always assumed money would solve everything. Sandy flooded their summer home. Money can fix that. crashed their Mercedes? Whatever, it was hardly a dent in their fortune. Then one day, the wife of the family gets sick. So the husband spends hundreds of thousands giving her the best treatment in the best hospitals with the best doctors. None of it helps, and the wife died about 2 years ago. Since then he and his remaining family constantly donate money to research facilities, in hopes that their money can fix the future, when it couldn't help them in the past. I spoke to a multi-millionaire once, and he said that finding love can be quite a challenge. Everyone you meet could just be after your money, and there is not really any way to tell besides coming up with an elaborate lie to convince them that you are poor, or limiting yourself to only dating people who have more money than you do. Here are some observations from a 17-year-old still growing up in a wealthy household. 1. I live in blissful ignorance of my family's finances. Ask me about my parents' yearly salaries, income, our investments, household net worth, etc. And I couldn't tell you anything, except that we are ultra high net worth, us $50 million. Don't know how much exactly. My parents deliberately keep me in the dark when it comes to money, and I'm completely okay with that. I think they made this decision because first off, one wants some loudmouthed kid talking about rich their family is, especially not where I'm from. In the first grade, one of my classmates was kidnapped for over $100 million. She was safely returned a day later. It is not very safe to be rich and high profile about it. It is also considered low class to talk money, no matter who you are. Also, they never wanted me to develop a superiority complex because of my family's money. In my view, I never have. That being said, I guess there is one downside to this. 2. The rich kid's invisible hand notion of having a never-ending, limitless amount of cash to spend. Obviously this isn't a truth but a perception. By never-ending, I mean that wealth has basically been a constant throughout my life, not visibly affected by financial crises, tax raises and so on. By limitless, I mean that I have never faced something that I cannot afford. As such, I think that rich kids are not necessarily big spenders, but are careless spenders for sure. When you literally have an unfathomably large amount of money at your disposal, it's so actually easier to spend than to save. 3. In terms of spending, my family has a very much quality over quantity mindset. For my family, budget constraints are so high they are out of sight out of mind. It's not that the price of a good determines my perceived marginal benefits from it. I love the US $0.50 street foods in my native country. But I do have the power of choice to substitute a less desirable good for a more desirable luxury good, and I do this often. My mother once told me, if something is going onto or into your body, it better be high quality. 4. On that note, I guess you want anecdotal evidence of the above points, so here are some cool things I've grown up with / noticed. Growing up, we always had maids, drivers, cooks, etc. This is actually a very common among upper and upper middle class families outside America. My family all has Amex Black Cards, Centurion. We don't use some of the more ridiculous services, i.e. personal butlers and concierges, but have used the hotel and travel benefits many times. Personal shoppers, US $10,000 SAT boot camp, etc. etc. Our home security systems have included bodyguards, temporary, biometrics, bulletproof glass, panic rooms, fake security cameras to prevent the domestic help from stealing, etc. I have never had an allowance, budget, scholarship, or part-time job. Wealthy Americans will gladly renounce their citizenships because of the income tax. The rich kids of Instagram are considered very shameful to their families, where I'm from, as a reality TV shows about rich kids, rich housewives, etc. etc. My parents grew up dirt poor, displaced by various dictatorships, persecutions, etc. at the time. As a result, they are very humble, not big spenders at all, and while they aren't coupon clippers, they do love a good deal. I have a friend who married into money. I've noticed he's taken on his in-laws' fear of being sued. A few years ago we were at a party at his house just hanging out when I noticed one of those portable breathalyzers you can buy. It was just kind of sitting there on the bar, but I thought it was kind of a strange thing to have sitting out at a party, given our history together from before he was married. Then I realized it was there to protect he and his wife from litigation if someone got in an accident on the way home that night. It made me kind of sad to realize they suspected us of wanting to sue them. Another time I was talking with his wife about this event she was organizing amongst their friends, me included. I joked that my white shirt would be pink after my many scrapes and bruises. Well, didn't we all get there and find a release form we all had to sign absolving them of any responsibility if we got hurt? Nothing kills the mood faster than signing a release form before you can hang out with your friends. They are having another party soon. I'm thinking of not going, just to avoid having to see that fucking breathalyzer sitting on the bar. I'm not sure how to say this without sounding selfish, but I'll try. Honestly, the thing that sucks the most, not being able to spend more money on friends. Sometimes there are things that would be really fun, that I know everyone would love, or just something that I really want to do. A lot of my friends can't afford to do a ton of extravagant things, which is totally cool. I understand and appreciate that I came from a very blessed background. The easiest thing would just be for me to buy everyone tickets to the concert, or just pay for the hotel, or whatever needs to be covered to ensure everyone can participate. But people get weird about that. I've been confronted about showing off or flaunting, when really, I just want everyone to have a good time. The difference is whether you've inherited it or earned it, and where you are within the top percent. This is a great article on the massive differences of wealth within the 1% investment banker on 1%. I'm at the bottom of the spectrum, and here are my observations. Taxes suck. I pay over 50% of my income back. Thanks California. Sacrifices. Whenever I hear people bitching, it's almost always apparent they aren't willing to do the things I've done to get where I am. Ball game on the weekend? Working. Birthday party? Working. Ski vacation? Working. Sleep? Working. Girlfriend? Working. After 5 years in graduate education, at $25k/year, I work 80-hour weeks every week. I hit diamond on Delta in 5 months, 125k miles. I have a nice 2-bedroom bungalow that I've slept in 3 nights in February, and a new car with less than 500 miles on it since November. I miss cooking my own meals, sleeping in my own bed, and doing nothing on a day off. I grew up poor in the Midwest, so I feel like I'm making a better life for my future family. But I have to laugh when someone is envious of my life. I'm not crazy rich like some of the people posting here, but my wife makes really big money. That probably puts us in the top 1% but not top 1%. Also, neither of us grew up rich at all, stay in school kids. I keep trying to explain to people that when you get into that top income bracket, most of your extra money gets spent on bullshit that doesn't really make you any happier. My wife always complains to me that she doesn't feel rich and doesn't believe she's in the top 1%. It's because she's comparing herself to the neighbors or the people she works with, who always seem to have more stuff. At least 3 times I had to show her articles saying what the cutoff was for the top 1% before she would finally believe me. It couldn't possibly be that low, she said to me the first time. So let me tell you a little story about our kitchen fridge. I call it the Toyota, kind of as a joke. The reason is that it cost $15,000 more than a Toyota Yaris. How do you wind up spending $15k on a fridge, you ask? Well, my wife wanted to renovate the kitchen. In our neighborhood, that means you're going to spend at least $100k. I put it off for a couple years, but eventually gave in. She doesn't have time to run around to stores. Big job equals no free time, and she hates my taste. So she hired both an interior decorator and a kitchen designer. We already had a pretty new stainless steel Jeff fridge that probably cost $3,000 or so, but when the cupboard designs came in, the kitchen designer absolutely insisted that we get a counter depth fridge so that door would not stand proud of the cabinets, but would instead be flush. I thought it was a bit stupid to throw away a perfectly good fridge then buy a shallower one with less room to put stuff in, just so that it wouldn't stand proud of the cabinets. But I'm not the one paying, so my opinion wasn't really the one that mattered. As a compromise, my wife agreed that we would get one that was wider. Once you go wider than standard, right away that puts you in the $10K and up range. We looked at the Sub-Zero, didn't love it, saw a meal that had nice halogen lights inside, and next thing you know we are buying a $15,000 fridge. Ridiculous decision, but it doesn't even matter. I didn't even notice the Visa bill, it just got paid. But you know what, in the end it's just a kitchen, and it's just a fridge. It doesn't suck or anything, although lots of super expensive fridges do, but it doesn't have any magical properties. And now that I'm used to it, I don't even notice that it looks nice. It's just there, and it keeps the food cold. Maybe it's because I'm not the one making the big money, but I can't help noticing how much of it just gets spent on bullshit that's expensive for no reason other than to get rich people to buy it. That's one reason that I never complain about taxes. We waste tons of money just because we have so much of it. If the government wants to take some away and use it to build a subway or pay for someone's healthcare or give it to a poor person, seems to me that's a better use for it. The people who complain about their taxes, it seems to me, have just totally lost perspective. If people understood just how much money us rich folks are spending on meaningless crap, they would be outraged. Dealing with the complicated tax structure that comes with accumulated wealth. I'm not super wealthy, but I have an annual income that puts me in the 1% of Americans. Through property and equities, I have a net worth in excess of $1 millimeter. Dealing with how to account for different pools of income coming from rentals, W-2s, dividends, straight taxable income from fixed income, state and federal historic tax credits from renovations, capital gains, etc. It takes me roughly a week of 2 hours a night that I'm not playing with my kids to ready myself to meet with my accountant to make certain that I'm clean with the eyes. I'm sure this sounds like the biggest first world problem rant ever, and I'm happy to be in the financial position I'm in, but keeping it all together is tough.